The wrong thing got in my paste buffer. And instead of seeing the live embed code information, you see the Nightmare Before Christmas, or whatever it's called. Hang on.
Night Before Christmas.
Night Before Christmas. Oh, good gracious. Oh, it's worse than that.
You pasted in the whole
rest of the show notes.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, where does it stop? Oh, this isn't good. This is going to be hard to fix. Hang on. I got to figure out where it should have stopped. Oh, dear. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Where is it? Where is it go? There it goes. I'm going to find where the end of the show was. Oh, just chit-chat across the pond in this episode. There we show you TV ingress protector, downcatcher toolkit. That's going to wind us up for this week. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. There it is. Okay?
Tell me when.
I hope that's the right one this time. Let's find out. Update. All right. Now?
Okay, that looks good. Go ahead.
Where the end of the show was.
Go ahead and mute me.
Okay, yeah, because I can hear me talking to you. All right. Okay, I'm going to mute you. And hang on. We're having a little technical difficulty here. We were ready too early, Steve.
Yeah.
Hide from broadcast. Okay, can you guys see me? Can you guys hear me? Oops. No, it wasn't my fault. I copied a link and pasted, and it didn't copy the first time, so I got the wrong link. So sue me. And for some reason, my camera is really wide. I don't know why you can see this table. You're not supposed to be able to see that table normally, but I don't know. It's wide. Okay, are we live? We are here. We are us. It is time for a roll call. It is 5:04. I'm drinking a nice cup of tea in my podfeet.com mug, my Podfeet mug. Did you know you too can buy these on our Zazzle store? Let's see. Our roll call looks pretty quiet tonight. We got Donald and Steve, Brett, Kevin, Kirshen, John, NC81796. Laura is popping in and out. Looks like she's having a little trouble with her connection. And Ryurk. If Ryurk is real. Tommy, can you see me? Tommy, can you hear me? So NC81796, if you type /Nick and then a space and then the name you want to be called, then you will be called that name. All right. And wait, I saw, there's Kiwi Spoon is back. Oh, I feel that tastes good, Steve. All right, let's do a test audio recording here. We were ready way too early. That's our problem. How do I get rid of that? There we go. Okay. Here we go. Let's see if the right mic is up here. Yeah, Rose was here. No, Rose is here. I see Rose. Rose is back. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan. Okay, coming out of the wrong speakers. Appreciate you changing that back for me, OS 10. Okay. Sheridan. All right, let's see. Let me hear that one more time. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast. Playback good? All right. What is that from? Tommy, can you hear me? Is that from the movie Tommy by any chance? All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Is it? That was a weird movie. Terry's here. Terry Austin, you just made it in under the wire. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Alpha Geek Radio has been waiting for like 10 minutes. We've been fooling around here. We've got the right video. We've got the right audio. We've got the show notes. We got some quotes from the movie Tommy. We're good to go. Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Macintosh bias. Today is Sunday, December 21st, 2014, and this is show number 502. All right, how many of you heard me say Saturday instead of Sunday last week? Well, the live chat room claims they hollered at me when I said it, but I never saw them hollering. I'll let you in on a little bit of my process in the background that caused this. I have a lovely text expander snippet for the introduction for the show. It automatically grabs the day and date and auto-fills it all in for me so I can't possibly make a mistake. That is, if I wait until Sunday to write the introduction. If I do it early, I have to remember to change not just the date, but the day as well, which I forgot to do last week. All right, get off my back. I can make a mistake once in a while. Well, unlike mini shows, we will not be skipping a show over the holidays. We'll not have a rehash show. It's going to be all new. I've asked folks to send in recordings to help me put it together in essentially one day. I have to make it tomorrow. I have one day to create it. Oh, and I have to do all my Christmas wrapping and some other things. Anyway, the recordings are starting to roll in, so I think we're going to be in good shape. If you've promised me one, you know who you are. Well, this week I had another screencast published by Don McAllister on Screencasts Online. I teach how to use a program called ArtText2, which I have mentioned on the show before here, from Beelight Software. It is an awesome vector art tool. Now you might be thinking, hey Allison, along with your lack of musical talent is your lack of artistic talent, and you'd be right. That's the beauty of ArtText2. It allows someone like me to make cool looking art with little to no talent. I actually made the NosillaCast logo using ArtText, and I think it looks pretty good. Anyway, Don has published a 4-minute trailer version of my tutorial, and if you make it through the 4 minutes, he tells you how to get a free 14-day trial of Screencasts Online. If you do the free trial, you get to see my tutorial in its entirety, along with 500 back catalog tutorials. I gotta warn you though, if you do the free trial, you will buy a subscription to Screencasts Online. Don's tutorials, and of course his amazing guest screencasters, give you training that you cannot get anywhere else. Good luck resisting. I put a link in the show notes directly to my ArtText2 tutorial over at Screencasts Online. All right, today I'm going to review 2 really cool utilities. Then Steve is going to give us his traditional yearly rendition of The Night Before Christmas with an ever so slight Macintosh bias. On Chit Chat Across the Pond, we're joined for the first time by Door-to-Door Geek from the Podnuts Network to talk about the state of Android today. It's a really interesting discussion, and I learned a lot and made a new friend. All right, let's get started. But I want to stop and read what you jokers have been doing. Oh, yes. File, save as. Sounds like I'm running backups. What's going on here? All right. NC 2014 1221. There we go. Save. All right. Shortest, longest day of the year. CJ from Ann Arbor. So CJ, you can type /Nick space CJ and you would be seen as CJ in the chat room. All right. 70820. Oh yeah, that's CJ. Okay. Oh yeah, Steve is telling you how to do it. All right, you should be able to fix that up so we can see who you are. Your textual chat room is dead. There's a new version of textual out there, CJ. I wonder if that's the problem. I got a new version I had to buy it though, which I think I'd already bought it before. It's a little bit weird, but all right, let's go ahead and get started here. Back in July, I wrote a blog post entitled Top 5 Menu Bar Apps in response to Tammy's question of what my favorite apps were. In my top 5 was a menu bar app called Jettison, and I sang its virtues for letting me very quickly eject external drives and put my Mac to sleep in a single gesture. I was very enamored with Jettison at the time, but it's gotten flaky on me in that it won't launch at login every time. So imagine the value drop to this app if you have to launch it in order to eject and sleep. Not very useful. Now, to be fair, I've never contacted the Jettison folks to see if they had a fix. I bring this all up because last October I got a comment on that blog post suggesting an alternative called Mountain from appgineers.de. For the last 2 months, I took that comment and I pasted it in the show notes, but I've been moving it out every week, hoping to get time to take a look at it, and finally that time has come. Mountain's reason for being is to allow you to quickly mount and unmount local drives, servers, and disk images. It runs as a menu bar app so you can get easy access to its services. There are these 3 categories, like I said, that you'll see in the menu bar app: internal volumes, external volumes, and servers. Internal volumes really surprised me at first because in the default installation, Mountain exposes not just my boot volume, whose name is Piggy, but also the EFI firmware volume and the recovery partition. I didn't want to go around messing around and accidentally ejecting those volumes, so I walked through the preferences, and under Customize, I was able to modify the interactions with each drive. Boot volume Piggy was already defaulted to prevent unmount, but EFI and recovery were not, so I set them to prevent unmount. I have to say it's kind of disconcerting to even see those volumes on my desktop. It's kind of cool to dig around in there and look what's on there, but I don't think we should be playing in there. So in the preferences, I also unchecked Show System Volumes. And while they disappeared immediately from the Mountain menu, I had to do a full restart to get them to disappear from my desktop. A logout didn't do the trick. I think the external volume section is going to be very useful for me. I bought a 3 terabyte backup drive recently during the great Drobo migration of 2014, and on it I created a 1 terabyte partition for backup of Piggy and left the other 2 terabytes as a drive called Open. Both volumes mount when I plug in to run a backup, but to eject them, I have to eject one and then click on Yes to say eject both. With Mountain, I can simply tap the eject button next to all external volumes and everything ejects just like that. Mountain even gives you a nice notification as the volumes disappear. I should mention that if you don't want all the volumes ejected, you can uncheck that preference under the Advanced tab in Mountain. I was glad to see that my mounted Drobo volumes stayed mounted even though they were listed under External. I suspect the Mountain's ability to control things was overridden by the Drobo dashboard controls that say to keep them mounted. I tested Mountain with VoiceOver and everything was accessible. The eject buttons were originally simply labeled button, so I sent a note over to Jan at appengineers.de suggesting to him that labeling them would be swell. He wrote back to me immediately telling me that the accessibility of Mountain was something of which he was quite proud and asked if I could elaborate on exactly where I was hearing the word button instead of eject. I made a short screencast for him illustrating the problem and apologized for my crude voiceover skills. Again, he responded very quickly back that the video had showed him where the problem was, and he'd been able to replicate it, and he was going to incorporate it into the fix into the next release. Before I could even give you a chance to give you this review, Jan had fixed the buttons so they now read out mount and unmount. If you want the beta with this enhancement, I put a link in the show notes to a blog post where at the very end, Jan gives the download link. I got to tell you, I love how responsive Jan is to his customers. Mountain gives you a lot of control on how many and what type of notifications you can receive in the alerts preferences. You can be notified when volumes become available, are unmounted, when it's safe to remove external volumes, and more. If you're a fan of Growl, you can even enable its notification services instead. I didn't get a chance to mess around with the server controls because I'm not actually running any servers in my house, but I was intrigued to see that in the Advanced Preferences tab that you could choose to have favorite servers mounted on Wake from Sleep. That sounded pretty handy. I just realized I didn't even talk about the most useful feature of Mountain for me, and that's the ability to pull down to unmount all in sleep, slap the lid shut on my laptop, unplug all the drives and cables, and run out the door. I used to love that feature on Jettison, and now I have it back with Mountain. Of course, all that other functionality is awesome too. Mountain is available 2 ways. You can get it in the Mac App Store or via direct sales at appengineers.de. In both cases, it will run you $6, but only the direct sales version will allow you to eject internal drives. The sandboxing restrictions put in place for the Mac App Store applications prohibit this functionality. Unfortunately, the Mac App Store version hasn't been updated in 2 years, so I think it's kind of a dormant product for now, and I think the direct sales version would be a better idea for you. Another great version to go straight to appengineers.de is that Jan... I'm going to stop here, you guys. I keep looking at this. I thought it was Appgineers, not App Engineers. My link says App. Yeah, it is Appgineers. Okay. All right, connecting, downloading app. Good grief. Stop that. Let's turn my lower thirds back on. Steve, what are you doing? Stop playing around. Okay, am I live in the same link again? Okay, good. No, that was not my fault. No, well, it's sort of my fault. I went to close a window, and you know how all of the windows look exactly the same on OS X now? I bumped the one behind it instead of the one I was trying to close. So, all right, blanks here. Engineer at work. Am I only back? Okay, I'm back for Steve. Might have to refresh. Tarpcam. Who's Tarpcam? We got a bunch of people snuck in here. Oh, and CJ got his name up. Good. Okay. All right. Teach me to stop and do something in the middle. Another great version. Oh, I made a mistake there anyway. Version instead of reason. And I've got mistakes in that blog post. I gotta make myself a note. Okay. 517. Did I say 504? What did I say 504 about? All right, here we go. Another great reason to go straight to appgineers.de is that Jan provides a free trial version. Now, instead of working for, say, 17 or 14 days, instead he makes it work for 30 minutes. That lets you try it as many times as you like in different circumstances, but it puts enough friction into it to make you buy it for the measly $6 he's charging. And if that wasn't a good enough reason to go direct sales, after Jan and I chatted back and forth several times, he suggested a limited time only discount code for NosillaCast listeners. If you enter the coupon code NosillaCast in all capital letters through the end of January at appgineers.de, you'll get 20% off. So we got a cool utility, it's inexpensive, the developer is really helpful, it's an accessible app, and you get 20% off. Seriously, what more could you ask? Tracking lists like books to buy. Joe, we use Wunderlist. It's free, and that's where I keep the books I want to buy. Oh, Steve, now you use text, so you got to them first. That's exactly. I use it for movies I want to rent too, and Christmas presents I want to buy, and things I need to do, iOS and desktop, and through the web too. All right. I have fabulous news. I have successfully wrestled the first of my domains from the clutches of domains by proxy controlled by my previous domain company. I did end up having to send a copy of my driver's license to them, though, to prove that I was me, which really bugged me, but I did end up getting a login to their site so I could turn off private browsing, move the domain over to Hover, and leave my current domain hosting behind. I decided to see how hard it was to do it first by hand and not asking them to hold my hand using their concierge service. Since I was terrified, I did my NosillaCast.com domain first, and I'm going to follow it up with my podfeed.com domain. Hover has great instructions with beautiful screenshots showing how to go step by step through your old domain company screens. Now, this is a real challenge with mine because they seem to change their menus and screens every time I go in there, but Hover had them all exactly up to date. I'm telling you, they got to pay somebody to check daily to see if they've changed. After going through ads to buy new services on my old site, I was able to unlock my domain and transfer it over to Hover. I think the total number of clicks on Hover's site was around 3, and I had to type in my initials to prove the transfer, and I was done. That was it. Typed AS, done, agree, I'm done. I wasn't offered extra services. There was no half-clothed woman on the page. The site was as clean and elegant as you could hope. If you'd like to give Hover a try for your domain purchases, new customers can get 10% off by using the coupon code PODFEET12 over at hover.com only through December. Next week, stay tuned for a success story told by Alistair Jenks about his interactions with Hover. All right. Doesn't contain the features you want. What is it missing, John? Steve, I've got you to say his name wrong. Who is Tarpcam? That's not Guy, is it? Is Tarpcam somebody new? Right. Oh, it is Guy. Thought we were castaways. What are you guys talking about now? All right, here we go. My daughter Lindsay, you know her as Ghibli's in the chat room, told me the other day that there's one thing she misses from Windows 7 on the Mac, and that's the ability to have a window snap to the left or right half of the screen or top or bottom half. She loves throwing things out like this to me because she knows I'll either know the answer for her or I'll find it. Here's another problem to be solved. You're making a screencast, say when you're working for Don McAllister of Screencasts Online, and you know you're going to be working on it over the course of several days, so you need the windows to always be in the exact same position, even if you disconnect and reconnect your external monitor or change screen resolutions between sessions. Imagine you're watching a video screencast and the window is on the left and suddenly jumps to the right a half an inch. Even a few pixels jump is very jarring, so you need something to precisely place the windows in a predictable and pleasing location on screen. What if you like all of your normally running applications be just so? Let's say you like Twitter and a long vertical column on the right, you like Safari dead center on the screen, you keep messages up on the left-hand side of the screen. Every time you boot up or whenever you do a non-standard task, you have to spend a couple of minutes arranging the windows just the way you like them. One tool will solve all three of these problems. It's a little utility called Moom, that's spelled M-O-O-M, from Manytricks at manytricks.com. It's also available in the Mac App Store for only $5. Moom can run as a standard application, a menu bar application, or as a faceless application. I guess if you get everything set up the way you like it, you might not want Moom hanging around being visible, but if you make Moom faceless, you have to actually launch it manually in order to interact with it. We'll start with the easy things you can do with Moom, and then get into the higher level functions you might also enjoy. Once Moom is running, every OS X window will have an enhanced feature. You know the three little stoplight buttons on OS X Windows, the red, yellow, and green ones? Well, now when you hover over the green button, you'll see a gray menu kind of float down. There will be 5 standardized buttons: full screen, left half, right half, top half, or bottom half. These left, right, and top, bottom combos can be really useful when you're comparing things between two windows, or say you're moving things between two Finder windows. It'd be really nice to have them fill screen, top and bottom half, for example. A simple tap of one of those buttons and your window automatically resizes. I showed this to Lindsay and she said, okay, but on Windows 7, all you have to do is drag the window where you want it and it automatically rescales and clicks into place. Well, I didn't think Moom could do that, but a few days later I accidentally dragged a window to the top of the screen, and while I was dragging, a dotted blue outline of the window appeared showing me it was going to make it half screen on the top. So for $5, Moom does exactly what Lindsay wants it to do. I recently discovered a bonus prize which you may have thought of already, but I'm kind of slow. In Mavericks and before, clicking the green button would cause your window to fill screen, but still leave you in the normal space so you could see your menu bar and switch between applications. If you wanted to do a true full screen in a new space, you had to tap the double-ended arrows in the upper right of the window. In Yosemite, the behavior changed so the green button does full screen in the new space, and we lost the ability to fill the screen with a normal window. Well, you remember I said there were 5 buttons on Moom's default, and one of them was full screen? Well, that button returns the functionality of the green button to the Mavericks days. This is essential to me as some applications misbehave when they're in full screen. For example, I once accidentally made the Chrome window with the Google Hangout on Air for the live show full screen, and it wouldn't come out of that mode. I couldn't switch spaces, and I couldn't get out of full screen, so I actually had to quit the Hangout on Air and start over. It was really annoying. But with Moom, I could just make it full screen with that little green button, or the full screen button underneath the green button. Below those 5 buttons, you're going to see a grid. The grid is also very cool. By dragging across it, you can create where you want the window to land. Let's say you want it nicely centered, but not full screen. You can drag across the middle of the grid, and the window instantly jumps to that position and size. Again, Moom shows you the blue outline as you're drawing, so you can adjust the size and shape live while you're dragging. If Moom did just the functions I've already described, I think it's easily worth the $5 price of admission. The behaviors I've described are controlled by Moom preferences, where you can modify what happens when you drag to the sides of the screen. I noticed in there that you can even go quarter screen if you drag a window to the corners. If you're more of a keyboard junkie than a mouse lover, the keyboard controls in Moom are awesome too. You can use a keyboard trigger to pop up a menu that lets you control the size and location of the frontmost window using a keystroke. For example, the default trigger is Control-Shift-Z. If I tap that, I can then hit the space bar to make the window full screen, or I could hold down the Command key and hit the right arrow to make my window pop to the right half of the screen. I think if you use Moom a lot, this could be really handy, but my memory isn't quite good enough to get the hang of it, so Personally, I just use the mouse. Now, let's take it up another notch. You ready for the custom tab? It's crazy in here, and I don't begin to suggest I'm good at using these advanced functions yet, but I've been able to know, I know enough to be able to be sure it's super useful. I'm easily distracted, and I get too many windows cluttering up my view on my main display. I found a custom control where I can assign a keystroke to simply banish a window over to my other display so I stop looking at it. You can set up custom controls to define the precise size and location of a window, which is what I use when I'm using when I'm doing screencasts. The most amazing custom control is called Arrange Windows, which allows you to save and restore the positions of windows in all applications that are open. That's for your super OCD person who likes things just so. While I was writing this up, I was thinking about it and I realized I could use that for the live show. I've been rearranging windows every week to set GarageBand on the left, Feeder on the right, Butt down below, a Finder window down in the center button. I've got Textual over on the left. I mean, I need it just so. So I created a Moom control so I can do that all in one stroke. Anyway, head on over to Manytricks at manytricks.com and check out Moom for yourself. All right, why was Steve over here? Steve came running in, but I don't know why he came in right then. Stopping to read. Oh. Oh, dear. I see. Steve apparently is okay. All right. Do you want to know something really scary? While I'm gone to India this March, Guy is going to be one of the hosts. Dun, dun, dun. All right, it is time for The Nightmare Before Christmas, or whatever Steve calls it. All right, here we go. Actually, I should probably do a little bit of a preamble. Preamble? What's a preamble? Okay, that's not what I want to do. Now, don't you think it was goofy when he called himself Husband Steve? And now it's time for Steve's annual holiday tradition. Here we go. Put you there. Yeah, Rose, we're going to India. How crazy is that? All right, let's hear how this sounds. And check out Moom for yourself. And now it's time for Steve's annual holiday tradition. Ooh, way too much gap. And now it's time for Steve's annual holiday tradition.
'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a trackpad. Okay, work with me here. The earbuds were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that all things eye-maker soon would be there. The NosillaCastaways were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of iPads danced in their heads. And Podfeet in her kerchief and I in my cravat had just settled down for a long winter Skype chat. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the keyboard to see what was the matter. Away to the windows! I flew like a flash drive, tore open the shutters, and nearly did a nosedive. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave the luster of brushed aluminum to objects below, when what to my eyes seemed very bizarre, but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny cars. With a little old driver with whom elves hobnob, I knew in a moment it must be Honda Bob. More rapid than 4G his vehicles they came, and he tweeted and shouted and called them by name. Now Accord, now Civic, now Fit and CRV, on Element, on Ridgeline, on Pilot and Odyssey, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now drive away, drive away, drive away all! As dry leaves that before the reality distortion field endowed, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the cloud, so up to the housetop the vehicles they flew, with the sleigh full of Apple products, and Honda Bob too. And then in a twinkling, I heard with a squeal the skidding and sliding of each little wheel. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney Bob came with a bound. He was dressed in coveralls from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with oil and soot. A bundle of SSDs he had flung in his Scotty vest, and he looked like a geek who was extremely obsessed. A wink of his eye and a look not too pious soon gave me to know he had a Macintosh bias. He spoke not a word, but texted his concern, and he filled all the stockings and then hit return. And laying a finger aside his levitation app, a command to his iPad, up the chimney, ASAP. He sprang to his sleigh, and the autos did they bristle, and away they all flew as if shot from a missile. But I heard him exclaim, as the poem prescribed, Happy Christmas to all, and please stay subscribed.
Yay! That was nice, Steve. There's actually a video available of Steve doing that live for the family. I think he did a better job on this one. All right. Well, that's going to be kind of... I go straight from that into an ad. I better say something swell.
Happy Christmas to all, and please stay subscribed.
Well, thank you, Steve, for that yearly trend. Stop laughing, Steve. I can hear him in the other room laughing. I could see him. Oh, I didn't hide you, Steve. When we went back in. I'm going to hide you. Too late. All right.
To all, and please stay subscribed.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for that yearly tradition. We all love it. Steve and I and Kyle went to a hotel on Saturday night to visit some family, and we had free Wi-Fi at the hotel. Steve reminded me to turn off my crash plan backups. I was confused. I said, wait a minute, why do we turn off our crash plan backups? I only turn crash plan off if it's wasting my bandwidth, not like, like when we're using our MiFi, not hotels. But he reminded me that Cloak, our VPN service, will kick in while on that scary free Wi-Fi, and we'll go over our 5 gigabyte limit pretty quickly. Steve's pretty smart. I'd totally forgotten about that. I went into CrashPlan and stumbled about a bit, trying to remember where I had to do that. It's kind of buried. Once I'd done it, I realized I could save Steve a bunch of time the next morning when he got up and needed to do the same thing. I whipped open Clarify, jumped through the CrashPlan hoops while taking Clarify screenshots. I labeled a couple of buttons and tabs to hit by using a lovely red rounded rectangle. I added just a few words around each step. I tapped the Save to Evernote button so I'd have the tutorial saved in my database. I exported it to PDF and I emailed it to Steve. Probably took me 138 seconds door to door, but probably saved him 10 minutes of aggravation. If you don't have Clarify yet, head on over to clarify-it.com and get the free 14-day trial and give it a whirl. And be sure to tell him Allison sent you when you inevitably buy a license or 2 or 3. Anybody in here not own the software yet? All right, we need, let's see, Kevin, take your ears off, please. Favorites, Josh, 44th Street log, chit-chat, chit-chat music, there we go. And we're going to talk Android. You put your ears back on. We're going to talk Android. All fears removed. I like the picture of the kids this year, Kevin. Your children are adorable. They're growing up, though. You shouldn't keep feeding them like that. You know what that causes? Especially, did you feed them after midnight? All right. Symbols check, Steve. Pay attention now. A whirl. And be sure to tell them Allison sent you when you inevitably buy a license or 2 or 3. Too soon. That was too quick. And be sure to tell them Allison sent you when you inevitably buy a license or 2 or 3. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Chit Chat Across the Pond, and I am excited to welcome to the show a gentleman named Dor, who is owner of the podcasting network Podnuts and co-host of the Android App Addict podcast, which is an Android app discovery podcast. How are you doing tonight, Dor?
I'm doing very well. I will not lie. Tuesdays are usually Mundane, slow, boring, dare I say, and I like the fact that you asked me to come on a show. I mean, this is really good stuff. I've heard you now on at least 3 different shows, and I will say I like a podcast where I know I'm going to learn something that I didn't even know I was going to learn, and you seem to bring something every time that I just never knew.
Oh, how fun are you, man? I didn't even make him say that, you guys. So I first heard Door on the Pocket Show with Paul Wheatley, and just loved your contributions on that. Not only your serious technical contributions, but your goofiness. So you have full license here. The reason I wanted to bring you on was, well, first of all, I do try to earn my ever so slight Macintosh bias by occasionally letting other disciplines in, like we've had Chris Ashley to talk about Windows. So this isn't going to be any sort of an ambush attack or anything, as much as hopefully a learning experience for me and for my listeners, because we do tend to slant into the Apple camp, but I certainly like to keep my eyes open. So I sort of put an agenda together, but we don't have to stick to it. I thought I'd kind of start you, though, with like a state of the union on Android. Where we are, I know people have talked a lot about the fragmentation of Android and where we are in that, and whether that's real, does it cause any problems? What are your thoughts on that?
I do think to a degree fragmentation has been overstated, but I do think it's based in reality. But it's not really based in reality because of Google or because of the developers behind the OS.
Okay. More the hardware manufacturers causing it, or?
Well, I'll say the hardware manufacturers that put their extra wares on top of Android don't help the situation. The TouchWizes, the blurs, the extra stuff sitting on top doesn't help. But the real problem is developers, and I can say this on my show, I've now talked to at least 20 Android developers on and off camera, sometimes for hours. Most of the problem with fragmentation is developers writing towards a very specific version of Android, but not taking advantage of the Android built-in core components, but instead trying to look special, look unique, or look exactly like the app looks on the iPhone. With different versions, different libraries change, so it's really hard to get that seamless look across every OS and every brand of device when you're putting all your own secret special sauce in. If you code towards the Android basics, all you got to do is open up your project, load the next library, and build your app, and you're pretty much done.
So it's when they try to do it specialized to a specific device, you mean like they want to make it look really awesome sauce on a Galaxy S4 or something like that, and when they try to do that, that's what makes it look stupid on other devices?
Well, that, yes, and I'll say every Android developer I know says nothing replaces owning multiple devices. Most of the good to fair Android developers I've met own at least 5 devices.
So they're forced to keep their eyes open to how it's going to affect users on older and newer devices and bigger and smaller devices?
Yeah, they the good ones try to stick with the trends of what is the hottest operating system right now, what's the hottest flavor right now, and what looks like it's going to be the hottest for the next 8 months, 10 months, 12 months kind of thing. A good example of it is the application Sleep for Android. Probably, I would say, the most well-seasoned alarm application because it can do things like connect to a Pebble watch or an Android Wear watch and actually listen to your habits and tell by the motion when you're asleep, when you wake up.
Oh, wow.
Are you? Yeah, and this guy is a guy. He's one guy. He's not a team. He's not a company. He's a guy. And what he did was he basically just wrote towards Android instead of what he wanted. He looked what was available to him, and he coded towards that. And he said because of that, with each version, he just goes in, recompiles, essentially, builds it back, and says, oh, okay, that doesn't look right now. Let me move this over. Let me move that over, move that over. And he says, and it's done.
So when you started talking about what is the hottest OS, let's talk a little bit about the OSs and where we are right now. The latest one is Lollipop, right?
Yep.
And let's see if I can do the alphabet backwards. It was Kit Kat before that and Jelly Bean before that, right? JKL, I think.
Yes.
The Apple people love to throw up the chart showing the adoption rates, and I know adoption rates are hampered significantly by the ISPs, right? By the Verizons and the AT&Ts and the T-Mobiles and Sprints. Right? T-Mobile probably didn't do anything mean; they're just wonderful. But anyway, the ISPs keep people from migrating to the latest OS. But what is the latest or the hottest now? If people can't get Lollipop, is the hottest actually Kit Kat still?
Right. Well, I'll say Jelly Bean is still a very, very accepted OS, and looking at the stats and graphs, it's going to be very accepted for probably almost another year.
Wow.
Because Jelly Bean actually had 3 versions in it. It had 4.40 or 4.4, 4.4.2, and then 4.4.3. So they had 3 different versions in them. So that one's going to be in the ecosystem for a very...
All right. I'm cutting you off there. This was a fun discussion. How long did we go? Oh, not bad. An hour and 8 minutes. We're doing good. All right. Back to preview. All right. Here we go. Okay. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Awesome.
Okay. At the end there, when I was talking about the Pocket Show and how the Dream Team was me and Chris and Paul and someone else, I couldn't remember his name. It is the venerable James Hart. But the one that's worse with that is I was talking about the new Dream Team, which was Paul, Adore, and Chris, and I couldn't remember the 4th person. It was Bart was the 4th person on that show. My apologies to both Bart and James. Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Remember, we do have a show next week. We are not taking a week off. We never take a week off here at the NosillaCast podcast. Anyway, thanks for our sponsor for helping to pay the bills, the makers of Clarify over at clarify-it.com and Hover over at hover.com. Don't forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions by emailing me at allison@podfeet.com. Follow me on Twitter @podfeet. Check out the NosillaCast Google Plus community, too. I went on a rampage this week about all the things that are just bugging the daylights out of me between iOS and the Mac. I don't know. I was doing a bunch of whining. It was kind of fun. If you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. Thanks for listening, and stay subscribed. How many copies of Clarify 2 do you have now, Kevin? Ears off. Ears on. Ears off, ears on. I don't know why it just sounded like the Clapper commercial to me. Just one? Come on, you got like 7 copies of the previous version, right? Castaways. Thanks for listening, and stay subscribed. Yay! And you have, let's see, you have Podfeet pins, and you have Podfeet mug, you have a Podfeet hat. You're a very good NosillaCastaway. Very, very good at it. All right. Wait, is that the right one? How about there? Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Macintosh bias. Today is Sunday, December 21st, 2014, and this is show number 502. All right, how many of you heard me say Saturday instead of Sunday last week? Get the day right. Your Podfeet tattoo? Show number 502. All right, how many of you heard me say Saturday instead of... That's disgusting, Podfeet tattoos. Not big into tattoos, I'm not gonna lie. I told my kids when they were little that I wanted to teach them a lesson about tattoos. They were maybe 10 or 12 years old, and I said, what was your favorite thing in the whole world when you were 6 years old? Power Power Rangers. And I said, okay, imagine having Power Ranger sheets for the rest of your life. That's what it's like. That's what I told them. Yeah, who else? You guys all going to the Mac barbecue? This is actually going to happen. In case you might think this is a joke, but Barry Falk has invited all of us, and by all of us, I mean all of the Mac users. Everybody who listens to me, everybody who listens to John and Dave, everybody who listens to Katie and David, everybody is welcome to a barbecue at his house. Steve's saying to give you a link. It's midwestbbq.com. See if I can find this. Hang on, I'm exporting the audio at the same time. It is. Oh, there you go. Steve beat me to it. Good job. He's goofing around on that site right now. He's got some pictures showing his backyard. He needs to pin the first post so that it stays up, so it explains what the site is. But he's serious. All right, guys. Well, we are actually done early because I was ready. I had everything going. Had a lot of good material. So I am going to cut us off. It's June 20th. No, I don't think he has the RSVP thing setting. And it's going to be in Chicago. It's June 20th in Chicago. Kind of mid-country. People can come over. I wonder if we can get Don to come. Wouldn't that be fun? Should talk to him about that. Because this is tired. This is to substitute for the lack of a Macworld. This is where all the cool kids are going to go to meet up. So, got to do it. Exactly. Yeah, Kevin, you better come. This is going to be our last chance to meet for a long time. We got to do this. Got to do it. All right. I am going to cut us off. I'll take us out in reverse order. Steve, I am killing the Alpha Geek Radio chain. Good night, Alpha Geek Radio. Goodbye. I don't know, I'm waving. They can't see me. They could only hear me. And let's see. Next, I'm going to take out, pretend to save the settings. Next, I'm going to take out the people listening via the link on the website or through the app. Bye. All right. And finally, it's time to say goodbye to the video. Goodbye, everybody. Good night.